Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show that I want to start with a question. Do signs of aging on your face or your body concern you, bother you? Are you hyper-focused on that? Are you endlessly looking for the fountain of youth? Kind of, right? Do you feel pressured to stay looking a particular way? If any of those things are resonating with you, then you, my dear, are not alone, and this episode is for you. Because in today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down the aging process and giving you some ideas of how you can age gracefully and gratefully, right? Gracefully and gratefully, because really, when you get on down to it, it is a privilege to be able to age. So before we get started, if you're new to my channel, please introduce yourself below in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time we roll out new videos to help you up-level the quality of all of the relationships in your life, including the one you have with yourself. And that is every Tuesday and every Thursday we release interviews, and I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. So if you are new here, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, which you can get at boundarybossbook.com. I want to say thank you so much for all of your questions and your comments. You guys know I read them all, and it makes me so incredibly happy to know that I'm not doing all of this in a vacuum and that we are all in this together, and I love to highlight your comments. So Tracy said, under the episode, How to Protect Vacation Time with Boundaries. This is so very timely for me. After a year of 7 days a week working, I'm attempting to take vacation numerous times, mostly unsuccessfully. Yes, some work has to be done due to my position and time-sensitive national deadlines, but I'm guilty of always being on. Your book and videos have guided me to be better at creating and protecting my boundaries, but this post is spot on, and I watched while I worked a full day during my vacation week. So true that we need to fill up our own cup, especially when experiencing extreme burnout. I love how you break it down and share about high-functioning codependency. That is me totally. I've applied your tips, and well, today is a new day to stick to those boundaries. I've also added another 2 days to my time away since I actually work 3 days during my time off. Thank you so much. Your book is transforming my life. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, Tracy from sunny Florida. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I super appreciate you being a part of our crew. All right, let's move on to today's content. If I'm being honest with myself, I don't think I really noticed myself aging, maybe until my mid-40s. And then I started seeing small things. And I was like, how do I feel about this? And it's interesting with aging that you don't really think about it until it starts happening. Or maybe for me, I just always feel perennially 28. That's the age that I feel. And I don't feel like I'm in denial, but honestly, I don't feel that different. So the fact that there was some changes happening physically, went through menopause, all of those things, that impacts how your body looks and how your face looks. And I was, for a bunch of years, really contemplating, what does this mean to me? Then I started really getting into, what is aging successfully look like? What is pro-aging, right? What is the alternative to aging, you guys? Obviously, we know this, is death. So I'm super happy to be alive, and I have a ton of things to live for. So I don't want to not be here. That is for sure. And it's really about changing your mind about how you feel about aging. We have been so conditioned culturally to be endlessly chasing after the fountain of youth. But why? Many other cultures that are not here in the US, which is where I'm based, don't do that. They actually value wisdom. Even in Europe, I feel like it is so much different than it is here. Here you see, especially if you're looking in Hollywood and LA and Real Housewives type things, everyone is getting work done on their face, and it's all anti-aging. It's all wanting to turn back sort of the hands of time. And I've talked about it in therapy myself personally, of how do I want to do this in my life? How do I want to age? And the thing is, I want to age the way that I do everything else, thoughtfully, mindfully, and well, which it moves from, for me, it moves from it just being about what my face or my body looks like. And it's really about, what do I need to do to hold on to my brain, right? That's what I use the most in all of my work. What is it that I need to do for brain health? And Dr. Daniel Amen, who is a close friend and someone I really respect and love, his work has been very pivotal in my life around brain health. And in fact, I'm getting my brain scanned on his Instagram show called Scan My Brain. Anyway, moving into how can we age gracefully and gratefully? Well, let's look at some statistics, right? There was a study that was done for about 1,300 women in the Bay Area in San Francisco. Basically, most of those women, the majority of them, said that life gets better with age. And when you think about your own life, is that true for you? Would you want to be back in high school? Are you one of those glory days type people who look back and are like, my best years are behind me? Well, I certainly hope not, right? But what these women were talking about is that levels of depressive symptoms and anxiety symptoms, feeling of loneliness, were lower among women that they considered more middle-aged, which is 45 to 55 years old, and older women who are 65 to 75 years old compared to those that were in the 25 to 35 range. So when we think about it, women in particular, our lives are getting better as we get older, partly because of the psychological shifts that happen, right? And we use our mental strengths in life to tackle new problems that arise, navigating the healthcare system. Think about all the things that you do in life, right? That if you didn't have someone in your life who had a need for that to happen, Vic has had 2 partial knee replacements, so negotiating the crap out of the healthcare system for me. When my mother was sick, thank God she's well now, but when she was sick, at the beginning of the pandemic, I just got my PhD in patient power, I guess we would call it, like advocating how to effectively negotiate the system, but how to effectively advocate so that my mother would get the absolute best care possible. And that meant me understanding the kind of cancer that she had and what she was going through and what was going to happen when she had chemo and radiation, and how were me and my sisters going to support her through that and take care of her through that. And we did all of those things. But a lot of times we talk about emotional labor and those types of things, but these types of things have a tendency to fall on women, traditionally speaking. And so all those years of multitasking our butts off and organizing families and friends and companies and all the things that we do, you're probably in your best psychological health to a degree, or brain health, from doing all of that for the years that we have done it. So when you think about another thing that these women in the study talked about was their relational strengths, right? Women have a tendency to have a close network of friends. And I actually personally have had the same friends. I talk about them all the time, but I literally have had the same friends since Richard Nixon was in office, and I was like 5. And that is a major, important part of my wellness. It was really hard during the pandemic. And we Zoomed all the time. There are 7 of us that spend all this time together, but we vacation together, we travel together, we travel without our spouses together, we do weekends, we talk all the time. It's like, but not seeing them in person was really hard, because that support network that traditionally women tend to have more than men is something that brings so much satisfaction and joy into life, because we have, when your joys are amplified because you get to share it with people who really care. And then your burdens are lightened because you have folks who can really be with you, right? They can really be with you in the trenches when life is rough. So women's strengths help us to not only be happier as we age, but to also live longer and healthier lives. So this is also all in this study, which I thought was really interesting. But the whole thing with being happier means you're less stressed, you have better immune system functioning. And statistics were saying in this particular study, and listen, this is a pretty small sample, so 1,300 people is not that many people, and San Francisco Bay Area is a specific area that is more modern, I guess. It's an urban in respect to, it's more of a city place, right? So you probably have people who are more interested and less sort of set in ways. And again, those are sweeping generalizations, but a lot of cities have people who have moved there specifically because they want to be in a more thought-rich environment, right? Where more is going on. So anyway, let's talk about, to me, that study was extremely uplifting, where I was like, okay, so this is great. It's not all sort of downhill from here, and it's not just me, because personally, I don't wish I was a different age. I don't wish I was younger than I am. I wouldn't be the expert that I am because I wasn't this expert when I was 30, right? So there's something about enjoying where we are, but what are the things that we need to do to stay enjoying it? Well, we need to stay physically well, right? So freedom from disease and disability to the best of our ability, meaning taking good care of ourselves. We want to protect our brain. We want high cognitive and physical functioning. Those things make sense because having had cancer in my life when I was much younger, I know that if we don't have our health, right, then that becomes the only thing there is trying to regain our health, which is why it is so taxing to live with chronic illnesses where you can't put your health on the front burner all the time in the way that if you have a crisis, everyone expects that if you're diagnosed with cancer, that's what you're going to be doing, is taking care of that. And I feel like the suffering of people with chronic diseases, so much of it has to do with people being like, well, isn't that done now? And you're like, no, with a chronic disease, it is going on. So anyway, I'll say high cognitive and physical functioning to the best of your ability, right? It's only as able as you actually are, but being actively engaged in life. And that means having friendships, and that means sharing things with other people. For many people, it means being in healthy romantic relationships, having clubs or groups or people who are interested in the same things that you are interested in and spending time with those people. In the guide, I'm going to give you some questions that you can answer to sort of see where you are right now in the aging process. And the questions, I've created them for you based on my 5 pillars of self-mastery, or 5 pillars of transformation that I created years ago. And the pillars are self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-acceptance, self-compassion, and self-love or self-mastery. And each one of those pillars, I'm giving you a couple of questions around you and the aging process to see where you are right now. And then I'm going to be giving you some ideas of things that you can do. Because what we know from a societal point of view, if we were looking at collective beliefs or thoughts or outdated beliefs and thoughts, it has always been that women need to stay young and that men are allowed to age gracefully, and that they can still be considered desirable in their 60s, 70s, 80s, where women are being replaced. If we just look at TV, if we just look at movies, TV was the worst when I was a talent agent. And just in commercials, that's what I was doing, right? Booking people when I wasn't doing, later in my career, I was negotiating contracts for models and celebrities. But in the first part of my career, I was a talent agent, and it was for TV commercials, basically. And they would literally always be like a 45-year-old guy and like a 22-year-old woman who's supposed to be his wife. And I just found it so offensive. I was like, why is this the way it is? And women losing their value as they age based solely on our physical looks. And so my thought, my feeling, my hope in doing this episode for you is that you'll reject that, right? Self-acceptance is such an important part of this process. And trust me, I've been going through it, right? So I'm not saying this is easy, you guys. I'm not, because I was raised in the same society, if you're a US person, and many other countries are very, very similar. Not all are as bad as it is here in the US, but I was raised here too. And so it's required me talking in therapy about how I feel about changing. I see my husband, who's 10 years older than me, changing. And to me, he's always the same, even though I can physically notice changes in him. He's not 40. Do you know what I mean? So, but to me, I don't mind. I do think he looks more debonair to a degree. He's a little bit more rugged because he's got more lines. I would never want him to change. And when way in the past, when I was talking in my 30s about, I don't know, would I ever get work done? I don't know. Vic would always be like, well, if you were doing that, that wouldn't be for me. Like, I don't want you to do that. I don't think you need to do that, Terri. And he always would not try to scare me, but he would a little bit be like, because he's an artist, so he's very visual. And he'd be like, when people get weird stuff done to their face, they look weird. He's like, your face is the way that it is for a reason. And if you do too much to it, but of course, listen, he's well aware of the fact that it is not his job to control me. And of course, I appreciate that he says he loves me the way I am. He loved me the way I was when I was in my early 30s and I'm in my 50s, and he loves me the way I am now too, which I do appreciate. But this is an inside job. This whole you deciding and looking at and becoming aware of how you are relating to aging yourself. Are you doing anything to support aging well? Or, there's a term now, successfully aging, we're calling it, by taking care of your cognitive brain, by taking care of your physical body to the best of your ability, by being socially engaged and having healthy relationships. Because really, those are the three things that we're looking at. When you're engaged in life, I'm still personally so lit up by my marriage, my family, my friends, the idea of having new adventures all the time. I am lit up by life. And I've kind of always been that way, but I'm so lit up by my work. I'm so lit up by you. I'm so lit up by the possibility of helping as many people as possible that I feel like that keeps me, I want to say keeps me young, but it's not that. It keeps me being me, right? This is who I actually am. So the question that I want you to really contemplate, and you can get the guide, I'll give you some of these questions, terricole.com/guide, is who will you decide to be in this aging process? Who are you? Are you going to, and listen, there's no judgment either, because I've been struggling with this for years. So it's not like, well, if you don't decide to age successfully according to Terri Cole, then there's something wrong with you. Whatever you need to do is okay. All I want you to do is do it mindfully, compassionately, lovingly. If it is a choice, whatever it is, right? There's a way that we can do this, though, where I did not want to feel forced by some societal standard that does not work for me to stay looking a particular way until the end of my life, because hello, that's impossible. But also, I don't want to feel like the way I look right now and how I'm going to look in 5, 10, 15 years from now, that there's anything wrong with that. I'm beautiful because I'm me, right? You're beautiful because you are uniquely you. And so it's really about you making a decision of how you're going to do this. And hey, man, let's do this together. I would love to hear what your thoughts are about how either you're struggling with or you're doing great with aging gracefully and gratefully. Because the truth is, we are all incredibly lucky to be here on planet Earth at this moment in time. I hope that this episode made you think. I'd love to know what you think. So please share it in the comments. Find me on Instagram. And let's keep this conversation going. And as always, take care of you.